Now, okay, we're live. Welcome, everybody. I wanted to take a minute before we started not to talk about a couple of things, actually, and that we're making a lot of progress, reading the scripture and our daily scripture study. Obviously, we're getting pretty far, and we've covered a lot of things, but and I'm just awesome. I mean, that's just awesome to me, that we've gotten so far. It seems like not long at all, but I guess it has been a long time since we've started this. It just has flown by. But brother Chris, how you doing, man? Um, and I want to explain something in the chat here in a minute, but first I want to talk about. Obviously, you've noticed today was 9/11. There's memes and people um, saying never forget 9/11 and all these things going on right now, especially on Facebook, on social media, on YouTube, and all this stuff. And you know, it's something that a lot of people get offended about, and it's also a lot of. It's a very, very, very good way, and I'm trying to watch what I say because I don't want because if they take my channel, I have everything that we've done, all the reading we've done on this channel is I don't have it backed up on anything. I don't have it saved anything, hard drive or anything like that. I need to start doing that in case the channel goes down. I don't lose every single thing we've read. That would be awful to lose everything that we have up on the channel. But it's a very good tool to use to show your family and your loved ones the deception of the world because I mean, this is no way a conspiracy by any means. Obviously, you there's people who have actually come out and spoke the truth about 9/11. The architects, people who framed the building, stuff about the Larry Silverstein, the guy who bought it before it actually. How they took money out on it before it was destroyed and all these different things. And, Donald Trump's even come out and spoke against it and saying there's no way that, but anybody with common sense, if you're a man, you've ever done construction worker, if you've ever done construction work, can't talk tonight. If you've ever done construction work of any type, or if you just have common sense, you know how a building is put together. You know that structure, solid steel beams, those beams, there's no way that a body like a 747 plane can bring down a building like that. It just doesn't make sense. It's not logical. And especially make both of them fall all the way down to the ground with nothing left at all. If it was real and a plane hit the top of that steel structure, it would it would have a huge explosion, and there would be some significant damage, but it's not going to bring the whole building down on itself, and both of them exactly the same way. And then Trade Center 7 fell down, and there was no plane or nothing. They just brought it down because they felt like it. And nobody even said or batted an eye or anything. But if you're having trouble waking your family up, show them that. Lots and lots and lots of good documentaries out there exposing that. And that was really the start when they started ramping things up. They've had the goal set for centuries now of the New World Order, the one world government, the beast system. We've always been in the beast system, in it, not of it. And that's a big thing. We're in the world, but we're not of the world. But anyway, since I got that off my chest, because today's 9/11, I wanted to bring that up. Um, Yesterday, in the last week or so, we've had a lot of drama in the chat room. I've had people tell me, why don't you just shut the chat off and just read the scripture or whatever. I don't want to do that because that's not what this is for. This is for fellowship, and this is for people to come in and ask questions and participate and talk to each other and in fellowship, be a body. But I'm telling you, if we have to figure this out. We can't have drama nonstop, fighting with each other. Can't get along with each other because I'm telling you, because if we're all brothers and sisters, the kingdom is going to be a very hard spot to live in if you can't get along with your brothers and sisters now. You know, so we got to figure this out. I don't know why people keep getting blocked. Now, I did tell one of my moderators, and I'll be very see-through right here. I told one of my moderators the other night, I said, block them all. I said, if they come in If you see somebody come in and they're causing trouble and they're not talking about the subject and they're just, they're cussing, or we know what a troll is, right? I mean, we should know what trolls are. They're not here for us. They're here to destroy and to divide and to make us fight. So that's the people we need blocked. But if we're a brother or a sister, I'm very long suffering. I don't I'll sometimes we have arguments, and it's fine to argue and debate and stuff, but we should be friendly about it. Um, but as of right now, there's nobody blocked on this channel. So if there's anybody that thinks they're blocked, I went through and I've unblocked everybody. Um, and also, there is no more wrenches in the chat room. Now I'm going to wait a couple days until everything comes back and it's all doing good and stuff, and then I'm gonna just add a couple wrenches. Guys, that wrench is not a status. I mean, I don't think, never thought I'd have to have this discussion. Of course, Deb, I know that. I would never think that, obviously. You know me, Deborah. You know that I don't think that. Of course, right? That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, just because of that. I lost my train of thought. But, you know, uh, a wrench is not a status or anything like that. I mean, it's just a tool to get rid of trolls. That's all it's for. And of course, I know that our sister and brother are not trolls, but thanks. That means a lot to me, Deb. Yeah, I mean, because when I'm reading the chat, when I'm reading the scripture, I can't see the chat whatsoever. But I want everybody to be here. I want everybody to participate, and I want everybody to um, fellowship and to learn and to, be here and hear the word being read. That's what it's all about. And, it sucks that all this has happened and stuff, and we're going to try to resolve it. I think what I did should resolve it. And I mean, a brother and a sister, we should know how to get along. We should be humble. We should know how to forgive and forget. Well, I don't know about forget, but we should know how to forgive anyway. Amen, Sister Deb. I appreciate that. And I would never ever want you guys to go anywhere else, to stop having to think you would have to stop coming here. I never want that to happen. Never. Over something in the chat. No, I would never want that to happen. When I mean block somebody, I was talking about block somebody if they're distracting. If they're not a brother or if they're a sister and they're just coming here causing nothing but trouble, and they're not here for what we're doing here, and they're not here trying to fellowship, they're not a brother and sister, block them. That's what I meant. And we'll stand by that. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to mention 9/11, and obviously I know a lot of people by now know that was the inside, job or whatever you want to call it. And obviously it started the Patriot Act, and it started the war on terror, and we went straight into Afghanistan, and it was all about oil and the petrodollar, and several different reasons. Opium. They went and got nothing but I'll call them religious artifacts, but they're not religious. They was things that proved they try to erase everything that proves the scripture is real. They got rid of all the history. They're trying to erase all the history, and they've done a good job at that. And obviously ISIS was doing the same thing. Anyways, I want to go ahead and start reading Ezekiel because I want to try to finish this book tonight. But anyways, guys, shalom. Love you guys. Glad you're here. I should have pulled this up already and had it loaded, but I had to up. There we go. Had to update my laptop last night, so everything was not loaded. Anyways, we're in Ezekiel 32, and we're going to I'm going to try my best. We should be able to finish this book tonight. I read most of the book of Ephesians last night again by myself. Let's see here. Oh, I mean, I just can't stand drama. There's no sense in it. There's no sense in the drama. None. Okay, so Ezekiel 32. I'll go ahead and pray us in. Heavenly Father, thank you, Father, for gathering us tonight in the way that you've gathered us, Father, in the way you've removed the scales off our eyes and you've allowed us to see, and you pulled us from the darkness and our ignorance, Father. You saved us from our sins, and you gave us a new heart, Father, with a spirit, a helper, that way we could walk in your statutes, Father, and your right rulings. And Father, we just pray we want to be your people. And Father, we just want to thank you for your word tonight, Father, and as we try to get through the book of Ezekiel, Father, the prophecies that are in it, Father, we pray that you'll allow us to know the things that you want us to know from this book and to make it easy for us, Father, to plant it in our beings. In Yahushua's name we pray that, Father. Amen. Amen. So, Ezekiel 32. And it come to be in the 12th year, in the 12th month, on the first of the month, that the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and you shall say to him, You were like a young lion among the nations, and you were like a monster in the seas, and you burst forth in your rivers, and trouble the waters with your feet, and muddy their rivers. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, and I shall spread my net over you with an assembly of many peoples, and they shall bring you up in my net. And I shall leave you on the land, hurl you out on the open fields, and make all the birds of the heavens dwell on you. And with you I shall satisfy the beasts of all the earth. And I shall put your flesh on the mountains, and fill the valleys with your height, and water the land with the flow of your blood unto the mountains, and let streams be filled with you. Wow. And when I extinguish you, I shall cover the heavens, and make its stars dark. I shall cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light. And all the bright lights of the heavens I shall make dark over you, and I shall bring darkness upon your land, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall trouble the hearts of many peoples when I bring your destruction among the nations into the lands which you have not known. And I shall make many peoples appalled at you, and their sovereigns shall be greatly afraid of you when I swing my sword before them, and they shall tremble continually, every man for his own life, in the day of your fall. For thus said the Master Yahuwah, the sword of the sovereign of Babylon shall come upon you, by the swords of the mighty men, all of them the ruthless ones of the nations, I shall make your hosts fall, and they shall ravage the arrogance of Mitzrayim, and all its hosts shall be destroyed. And I shall destroy all of its beasts from beside its great waters, and let the foot of man trouble them no more, nor let the hooves of beasts trouble them. Then I shall make their waters clear, and make their rivers run like oil, declares the Master Yahuwah, when I lay the land of Mitzrayim waste, and the land shall be stripped of all that once filled it, when I have smitten all who dwell in it. Then they shall know that I am Yahuwah. This is the lamentation, and they shall lament her. The daughters of the nations lament her. Over Mitzrayim and over her crowd, all her crowd, they shall lament her, declares the Master Yahuwah. And it come to be in the 12th year, on the 15th of the month, that the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, wail over the crowd of Mitzrayim, and send them down to the depths of the earth, her and the daughters of the mighty nations, with those going down to the pit. Are you more pleasant than others? Go down, be placed with the uncircumcised. In the midst of those slain by the sword, they fall. She shall be given to the sword, drawing her and all her crowds. The mightiest among the mighty speak to him out of the midst of the grave with those who help him. They have gone down, they lie with the uncircumcised slain by the sword. As sure is there and all her assembly, with their graves all around her, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, whose graves are set in the sides of the pit, and her assembly is all around her grave. All of them slain, fallen by the sword, because they instilled fear in the land of the living. There is Elam and all her crowd and her grave, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, who have gone down uncircumcised to the lower parts of the earth, because they instilled fear in the land of the living, and they bear their shame with those going down to the pit. They have set her bed in the midst of the slain, with all her crowd, with her graves all around it, all of them uncircumcised, slain by the sword, for the fear they instilled in the land of the living, so they bear their shame with those going down to the pit. In the midst of the slain they have been placed. There are and Tubal and all her shall not lie with the mighty who are fallen of the uncircumcised, who have gone down to the grave with their battle gear, and whose swords were laid under their heads, but their crookedness are on their bones, because of the fear of the mighty in the land of the living. And you shall be broken in the midst of the uncircumcised, and lie with those slain by the sword. There is Edom, her sovereigns, and all her princes, who shall be given up in their might. With those slain by the sword, with the uncircumcised they lie, with those going down to the pit. There are the princes of the north, all of them, and all the Sidonians, who have gone down with the slain because of the fear they instilled. They are ashamed of their might, and they lie uncircumcised with those slain by the sword, and bear their shame with those going down to the pit. Pharaoh and all his army shall see them, and shall be comforted for all his hosts that were slain by the sword, declares the Master Yahuwah. For I have put a fear of him in the land of the living, yet he shall be placed in the midst of the uncircumcised with those slain by the sword, Pharaoh and all his hosts, declares the Master Yahuwah. And we seen yesterday, it was talking about, obviously, Sor, the king of Tyre, um, and we see that it was actually talking about Satan, because it says that he was in the Garden of Eden, and he was one of the most precious, one of the cherubim, which is like a messenger, the messenger type of an angel, and it just randomly started talking about it, this king, and then it started talking about Satan. We see that this is pretty much the fall, him showing us that this was the beast system, and how they was all in idolatry. Chapter 33, and the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of your people, and you shall say to them, when I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land shall take a man from their borders, and shall make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming upon the land, and shall blow the ram's horn, or shofar, and shall warn the people, then whoever shall hear the sound of the shofar, and shall not take the warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood is on his own head. He heard the sound of the shofar, but he did not take warning. His blood is on himself, but he who takes warning shall deliver his being. And did you know that he's also going to, that's why we keep the Feast of Trumpets, because it signifies his coming, his second coming, or the Messiah's second coming. So, it's always been a symbol of warning some, people. The shofar has, the shofar blast. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and shall not blow the shofar, and the people shall not be warned, and the sword comes and takes any being from among them, he is taken away in his crookedness, and his blood I require at the watchman's hand. And you, son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Yasharel, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and you shall warn them for me. When I say to the wrong, O wrong one, you shall certainly die, and you have not spoken to warn the wrong from his way, that wrong one shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. But when you have warned the wrong one to turn from his way, and he has not turned from his way, he shall die in his crookedness, but you have delivered your being. And he's telling this to Ezekiel. We've seen this earlier also. And you, O son of man, say to the house of Yasharel, this is what you have said, if all transgressions and our sins lie upon us, but that the wrong turn from his way and live, turn back from your evil ways. For why should you die, O house of Yasharel? Just like in chapter 18, he said the same thing. He has no, his being has no pleasure in the death of the unrighteous. He wants everybody to live. And you, O son of man, say to the children of your people, the righteousness of the righteous man shall not deliver him in the day of his transgression. And as for the wrongness of the wrong, he shall not stumble because of it in the day that he turns from his wrong. And the righteous shall not be able to live because of his righteousness in the day that he sins. He's flat out telling you time and time and time again. We've already seen this once. We've already covered this the other day. But he just told us again, that there's no such thing as once saved, always saved. He says you need to be righteous and what he calls righteous. And it's not hard. Just have to follow his guidelines and how he tells us to live. When I say to the righteous that he shall live, and he has trusted in his righteousness, and shall do unrighteousness, none of his righteousness shall be remembered, but because of his unrighteousness that he has done, he shall die. Just like we read the other day in chapter 18. Again, when I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, if he turns from his sin and does right and righteousness, if the wrong restores the pledge, gives back what he has stolen, and walks in the laws of life without doing crookedness, he shall certainly live. He shall not die. He just flat out told you, if you've done wrong, you need to make it right and repent and then walk in the laws of life, which is the Torah, not the government laws, but the laws of the Torah, and you shall live. It's that simple. But everybody's distracted us from wanting to know that. None of his sins which he has committed shall be remembered against him. He has done right and righteousness, he shall certainly live. And the children of your people have said, the way of Yahuwah is not fair, but it is their way which is not fair. He said, it is their way that's not fair. My way is fair. My way is the truth. When the righteous turns from his righteousness and does unrighteousness, he shall die because of it, he said. But when the wrong turns from his wrongness and does right and righteousness, he shall live because of it. He just told you 5 different times that you need to be righteous. And you have said, the way of Yahuwah is not fair, O house of Yasharel. I shall judge every one of you according to his own ways. I shall judge you according to his own ways. We all face judgment. And it come to be in the 12th year of our exile, in the 10th month, on the 5th of the month, that one who had escaped from Jerusalem came to me and said, the city has been smitten. And the hand of Yahuwah came upon me the evening before the man came who had escaped, and he had opened my mouth before he came to me in the morning, and my mouth was open, and I was no longer silent. Then the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, they who inhabit those ruins in the land of Yasharel are saying, Abraham was only one, and he inherited the land, but we are many. Let the land be given to us as a possession. Therefore say to them, thus said the Master Yahuwah, you eat meat with blood, and you lift up. Yeah, we're not supposed to eat meat that's still soaking in blood, in its own blood. You're supposed to drain the blood from the animal before you eat the meat from it. Of course, what he calls clean, and we see that in the Torah. All this is found in the Torah. And you lift up your eyes toward your idols and shed blood, should you then possess the land. You depend on your sword, and you commit abominations, and each of you defiles his neighbor's wife, should you then possess the land. Say this to them, thus said the Master Yahuwah, as I live, those who are in the ruin shall fall by the sword, and the one who is in the open field I shall give to the beast to be devoured, and those who are in the strongholds and caves shall die of the pestilence. And I shall make the land a desert and a waste. The arrogance of her strength shall cease, and the mountains of Yasharel shall be a waste, with none passing through. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah when I have made the land a desert and a waste, because of all their abominations which they have done. As for you, son of man, the children of your people are talking about you beside the walls in the doors of the houses, and they speak to each other, each saying to his brother, please come and hear what the word is that comes from Yahuwah. And they come to you as a people do, and they sit before you as my people, and they hear your words, but they do not do them. They was a hearer of the word. They wasn't a doer of the word. It's like James warned us about. For with their mouth they show us much love, their hearts pursue their greedy gain. Guess who done that? The Pharisees. This is what become the Pharisees. They talked a big game, but they didn't do it. They done stuff to look good in front of men. They was men pleasers. And see, you are to them as a very lovely song of one who has a pleasant voice and playing well on the instrument, and they hear your words, but they do not do them. And when it comes, see, it shall come that then they shall know that a prophet has been in their midst. 34. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Yasharel. Prophesy and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahuwah to the shepherds, Woe to the shepherds of Yasharel, who have been feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock? Feed the flock. You eat the fat and you put on the wool. You slaughter the fatlings. You did not feed the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, nor have you healed the sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back the straying, nor sought what was lost, but you have ruled them with the might and harshness, and they were scattered because there was no shepherd. They was scattered because there was no shepherd. And they became food for all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. My sheep wandered through all the mountains and on every high hill, and my sheep were scattered all over the face of the earth. That's why he says, I come only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's why he said that, because the sheep was scattered all over the earth. That's where we get that term, the sheep. My sheep know my voice, and no one was seeking or searching for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Yahuwah. As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, because my flock became a prey, and my flock became food for every beast of the field, from not having a shepherd, and my shepherds did not search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves and did not feed my flock. Therefore, O shepherds, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I am against the shepherds, and shall require my flock at their hand, and shall make them cease feeding the sheep, and the shepherds shall feed themselves no more, and I shall deliver my flock from their mouths, and shall no longer be food for them. Amen to that. For thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I myself shall search for my sheep and seek them out. Check this out, guys. He said, I myself shall search for my sheep and seek them out. That is so incredible, guys. I mean, that on so different many levels, what he just said right there. I myself shall search my sheep and seek them out. That's exactly what he did. As a shepherd seeks out his flock on the day he is among his scattered sheep, so I shall seek out my sheep and deliver them from all the places where they were scattered in a day of cloud and thick darkness. And I shall bring them out of the peoples and gather them from the lands, and shall bring them to their own land. And I shall feed them on the mountains of Yasharel, in the valleys, and in all the dwellings of the land. In good pasture I shall feed them, and their fold shall be on the high mountains of Yasharel. They shall lie there in a good fold and feed in a rich pasture on the mountains of Yasharel. Amen. I shall feed my flock and make them lie down, declares the Master Yahuwah. I shall out the lost and bring back the strayed, and I shall bind up the broken and strengthen that was sick. But the fat and the strong I shall destroy. I shall feed them with right ruling. And as for you, O my flock, thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I am judging between sheep and sheep, between rams and goats. And obviously, you should understand what that means, between rams and goats. He's letting the wheats and the tares grow up together. Of course, he's going to pluck up all the tares and cast them into the fire. He's bringing us all into the barn. He's going to get rid of the bad. Is it not enough for you to have eaten up the good pasture, and the rest of your pasture you trample with your feet, or that you should drink of the clear waters, and the rest of you muddy with your feet? And as for my flock, they eat what you have trampled with your feet, and they drink what you have muddied with your feet. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah to them, See, I myself shall judge between fat and lean sheep, because you have pushed with flank and shoulder, and thrust at all the weak ones with your horns, and you scattered them abroad. Therefore I shall save my flock, and let them no longer be a prey, and I shall judge between sheep and sheep. And I shall raise up over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he shall feed them, and be their shepherd. See? And I, Yahuwah, shall be their Elohim, and my servant David a prince in their midst. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. Obviously, we understand this to be somebody from the lineage of David, which was Yahusha, HaMashiach. Amen. Because that was the covenant with David, that he would always keep somebody from David's bloodline as a king and a sovereign, a ruler. And that's exactly what happened. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, and make evil beasts cease from the land, and they shall dwell in safely in the wilderness, and sleep in the forest. And I shall make them and the places all around my hill a blessing, and shall cause showers to come down in their season. Showers of blessing they are. And the trees of the field shall yield their fruit, and the earth yield her increase. And they shall be safe in their land, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah when I have broken the bars of their yoke. And I shall deliver them from the hand of those who enslave them. And they shall no longer be a prey for the Gentiles, and the beasts of the earth shall not devour them, and they shall dwell safely, with no one to make them afraid. And I shall raise up them a planting place of name, and they shall no longer be consumed by hunger in the land, nor bear the shame of the Gentiles any more. And they shall know that I, Yahuwah, their Elohim, am with them, and that they, the house of Yashrael, are my people, declares the Master Yahuwah. And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your Elohim, declares the Master Yahuwah. Amen. This is awesome stuff right here. Chapter 35. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Mount Seir, or however you say that, and prophesy against it, and you shall say to it, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, O Mount Seir, Seir, I am against you, and shall stretch out my hand against you, and shall make you a ruin and a waste. Your cities I destroy, and let you be a ruin, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah, because you have had a continuous enmity, and handed the children of Yashrael over to the power of the sword at their time of calamity, at the time of the crookedness of the end. Therefore, as I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, I shall appoint you for blood, and let blood pursue you, since you did not hate blood. Therefore blood shall pursue you. And I shall make Mount Seir a ruin and a waste, and cut off from it the one who leaves and the one who returns, and shall fill its mountains with the slain, those slain by the sword falling on your hills and in your valleys and in all your ravines. And I shall make you an everlasting ruin, and your cities uninhabited, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah, because you have said that these two nations and these two lands are mine, and we shall possess them, although Yahuwah was there. Therefore, as I live, declares Master Yahuwah, I shall do according to your displeasure and according to your envy which you showed in your hatred against them, and I shall make myself known among them when I judge you. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah. I have heard all your scorns, which you have spoken against the mountains of Yashrael, saying, They are laid waste, they were given to us for food. And with your mouth you have boasted against me, and increased your words against me. I myself have heard. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, as all the earth is rejoicing, I shall make you a ruin. As you rejoice because the inheritance of the house of Yashrael was laid waste, so I do to you. Be a ruin, O mountain Seir, as well as all of Edom, all of it, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. So even when Yashrael was in its distress and he was kicking them out, he still was protecting them. And that's just awesome. 36. And you, son of man, prophesy to the mountains of Yashrael, and you shall say, O mountains of Yashrael, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, because the enemy has said of you, Aha, the heights of old have become our possession. Therefore prophesy, and you shall say, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, because they laid you waste and swallowed you up on every side, so you became the possession of the rest of the Gentiles, and you were taken up by the lips of talkers and slandered by the people. Therefore, O mountains of Yashrael, hear the word of the Master Yahuwah. Thus said Master Yahuwah to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and to the valleys and to the deserted ruins and to the cities that have been forsaken, which become a prey and a mocking to the rest of the Gentiles all around. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, have I not spoken in my burning jealousy against the rest of the Gentiles and against all Edom? who gave my land to themselves as a possession, with all joy of heart, with scorn in their being, to drive it out for a prey. Therefore prophesy concerning the land of Yasharel, and you shall say to the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, and to the valleys, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I have spoken in my jealousy and my wrath, because you have borne the shame of the Gentiles. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, I have lifted my hand in an oath that the Gentiles that are around you shall bear their own shame. But you, O mountains of Yasharel, put forth your branches and bear your fruit to my people, Yasharel, for they are about to come. For look, I am for you, and I shall turn to you, and you shall be tilled and sown. And I shall increase men upon you, all the house of Yasharel, all of it, and the cities shall be inhabited, and the ruins rebuilt. And I shall increase upon you man and beast, and they shall increase and bear young, and I shall make you inhabited as of old, and do better for you than at your beginnings, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I shall let men, my people Yasharel, walk upon you, and let them possess you, and you shall be their inheritance, and no longer let you add to be their bereavement. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, because they say to you, You devour men, and you have bereaved your nation. Therefore you shall no longer devour men, and no longer bereave your nation, declares the Master Yahuwah. And no longer shall I let you hear the insults of the Gentiles, and the reproach of the peoples you shall bear no more, and no longer cause your nations to stumble, declares the Master Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, when the house of Yasharel dwelt in their own land, they defiled it by their own ways and deeds. To me, their way was like the uncleanness of a woman in her monthly period. That's what Yasharel was like. And that's why there's divorce, because he said it was like a woman in her uncleanness. So I poured out my wrath on them for the blood that they had shed on the land, and for the idols they defiled it. And I scattered them among the Gentiles, and they were dispersed throughout the lands. I have judged them land. But I had compassion on my set-apart name, which the house of Yasharel had profaned among the Gentiles wherever they went. Therefore say to the house of Yasharel, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, I do not do this for your sake, O house of Yasharel, but for my set-apart name's sake, which you have profaned among the Gentiles wherever you went. And I shall set apart my name, I shall set apart my great name, which has been profaned among the Gentiles, which you have profaned in their midst, and the Gentiles shall know that I am Yahuwah, declares the Master Yahuwah, when I am set apart in you before their eyes. He says, they'll know that I am Yahuwah when I am set apart in you before their eyes. And I shall take you from among the Gentiles, and I shall gather you out of all the lands, and I shall bring you into your own land. And I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, and from all your idols I cleanse you. And I shall give you a new heart. I shall give you a new heart, and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh. And I put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws, and guard my right rulings, and shall do them. Just like Jeremiah 31 saying. Same thing. This is the renewed covenant right here. And you shall dwell in the land that I give to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I shall be your Elohim. He said, you shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers. Guys, that has not happened yet. And I shall save you from all your uncleanness, and I shall call for the grain and increase it, and I shall bring no scarcity of food upon you, and I shall increase the fruit of your trees and the increase of your fields, so that you need never again bear the reproach of your scarcity of food among the Gentiles. And you shall remember your evil ways and your deeds that were not good, and you shall loathe yourselves in your own eyes for your crookedness and your abominations. Not for your sake am I acting, declares Master Yahuwah. Let it be known to you. Be ashamed and blush for your ways, O house of Yasharel. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, on the day that I cleanse you from all your crookedness, I shall cause the cities to be inhabited, and the ruined places shall be rebuilt, and the land that was laid waste, tilled instead of being a ruin before the eyes of all who pass by. And they shall say, This land that was laid waste has become like the Garden of Eden, and the wasted and the deserted and the destroyed cities are now walled and inhabited. Then the Gentiles which are left all around you shall know that I am Yahuwah, have rebuilt the destroyed places and planted what was laid waste. I, Yahuwah, have spoken it and shall do it. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, once again I shall let the house of Yasharel inquire of me to do for them I shall increase their men like a flock, as a set apart flock, as the flock at Jerusalem at her appointed times. So shall the wasted cities be filled with flocks of men, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. So this is the point, the idea of him bringing us back and putting the Spirit in with us. Now here we go. 37. The hand of Yahuwah was upon me and took me out by the Spirit of Yahuwah and set me down in the midst of the valley, and it was filled with bones. And he made me pass among them all around, and see, there was very many on the surface of the valley, and see, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, would these bones live? And I said, O Master Yahuwah, you know. And he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and you shall say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus said the Master Yahuwah to these bones, See, I am bringing into you a spirit, and you shall live. And I shall put sinews on you, and bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put a spirit in you, and you shall live. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I prophesied, and I was commanded. And as I prophesied, there was a noise, and there was a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. And I looked and saw sinews, and flesh came upon them, and skin covered them, but there was no spirit in them. Then he said to me, Prophesy to the Spirit, prophesy, Son of man, and you shall say to the Spirit, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, Come from the four winds, O Spirit, and breathe on these slain, so that they live. And I prophesied as he commanded me, and the Spirit came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet a very great army. And he said to me, Son of man, these bones are all the house of Yasharel. See, they say, our bones are dry, our expectancy has perished, and we ourselves have been cut off. Therefore prophesy, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, O my people, I am opening your graves, and shall bring you up from your graves, and shall bring you into the land of Yasharel. Now, guys, this is the resurrection right here. Flat out. Ezekiel 37, verse 12 is talking about the resurrection. That's why he says, the dead in Christ shall rise first. And Revelation 21 and a lot more places. This is the resurrection right here. That's what he's talking about. Yasharel, his people, the bride. He says, I'll bring you out of your graves, and you shall enter to the land of Yasharel. My spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall settle you in your own land, and you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and I have done it, declares Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, And you, son of man, take a stick for yourself, and write on it, for Judah and for the children of Yasharel, his companions. Then take another stick and write on it, for Joseph. This is the two sticks right here, guys. This is the two houses. For Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Yasharel, his companions. Then bring them together for yourself into one stick. One stick. This is one of the most important prophecies that you could ever know. One of the most important doctrines of the whole Scripture. All the Scriptures. He's talking about the two houses becoming one house again. The two sticks becoming one stick. Paul is talking about this throughout the letter of Romans. He says, then bring them together for yourself into one stick. And we're talking about Judah and Yasharel becoming one house again, because they used to be one house, but they was divided, Jeroboam and Rehoboam. And they shall become one in your hand. And when the children of your people speak to you, saying, Won't you show us what you mean by these? Say to them, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I am taking the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yasharel, his companions, and I shall give them unto him with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the sticks on which you write shall be in your hand before their eyes. And speak to them, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, See, I am taking the children of Yasharel from among the Gentiles, wherever they have gone. Guys, we're still among the Gentiles today. This is who he's talking about, us, his bride. Wherever they have gone, and shall gather them from all around, and I shall bring them into their own land. It's what, the greater Exodus is about. And I shall make them one nation in the land, on the mountains of Yasharel, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all, and let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. And they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols, nor with their disgusting matters, nor with any of their transgressions. And I shall save them from all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and I shall cleanse them, and they shall be my people, and I be their Elohim. Amen. While David my servant is the sovereign over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my laws, and I shall do them. So he says, guard my laws, and shall do them. Do them. Not be hearer of them, do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I given to Jacob my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell in it. They and their children's children forever, and my servant David be their prince forever. Which he's talking about Yahusha. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, and everlasting covenant is with them, and I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. Now this is talking about New Jerusalem, my set apart place in their midst forever. That's New Jerusalem right there. And my dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the Gentiles shall know that I, Yahuwah, am setting Yashrael apart, when my set apart place is in their midst forever. Forever. This is Revelation 21, 20 and 21. And of course, Second Baruch. All the prophecies, they're all one big prophecy. They're not separate prophecies. They're all one prophecy. You just got to know how to put them all together. 38. Now this is Gog, and Magog, what we see in Revelation. This is Gog and Magog. What we also see in Revelation. Like I just said a second ago, about the prophecies. They're all one prophecy, but different prophets prophesied of it. And you have different accounts of it. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog in the land of Magog. So we see that Gog and Magog is a land. Gog in the land of Magog. The prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now we always, we see that these are like superpowers. The beast system. And you shall say, Thus says the Master Yahuwah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. And I shall turn you around, and I shall put my hooks into your jaws, and shall lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, clad perfectly, a great assembly with armor and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all its bands, the house of Tagar-Ma, from the far north. See, we see far north, and all its bands, many peoples with you. Be ready, prepare yourself, you and all your assemblies that are assembled unto you, and you shall be a guard for them. After many days you shall be called up. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword, and gathered from many people on the mountains of Yasharel, which had been a continual waste, but they were brought out of the Gentiles, and all of them shall dwell safely. You shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your bands, and many peoples with you. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, and it shall be in that day that the words arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan. You shall say, Let me go up against a land of unwalled villages, and let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and take booty, which is like, treasure, stuff, things out of the land, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the Gentiles, acquiring livestock and goods, who dwell in the middle of the land, Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions shall say to you, Have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take treasure, to bear away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to take plunder? Therefore, Son of man, prophesy, and you shall say to Gog, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, in that day when my people Yahshua dwell safely, would you not know? And you shall come from your place out of the far north. You shall come out of your place from the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. So, people think this is Russia. Most likely Russia today. It does sound pretty accurate. And you shall come against my people Yahshua like a cloud to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be. See, the latter days it shall be. In the last days it shall be. And I shall bring you against my land in order that the Gentiles know me when I am set apart in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, are you the one I spoke in the former days by my servants the prophets of Yashrael, who prophesied for years in those days to bring you against them? And it shall be on that day, on the day when Gog comes against the land of Yashrael, declares the Master Yahuwah, that my wrath shall come upon my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. On that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Yashrael, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field and all creeping creatures that creep on the earth and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall fall to the ground. And I shall call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the Master Yahuwah, the sword of each one being against his brother. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain and hailstones, fire and sulfur on him and on his bands and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself in my set apart place, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. Now this is very, 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 very deep stuff right here. Because it goes all the way. We're talking about the beast system, pretty much. We see that the king of Tyre, he was talking about Satan, and how he uses these sovereigns, how he uses these nations, That's how he deceived the world, through the government, through television. That's why we see, people talk about the Illuminati and stuff, the music industry, television. He's deceived people, brainwashed them, uses them. He's going to put an end to it. Amen. And then we're going to be married to him, and we're going to be his people continually, and we're going to have a glorified body. That's what's awesome. He's going to wipe away our tears, and he's going to be our light. And we're going to be in the kingdom. That's what we strive for. And you, son of man, chapter 39, and you, son of man, prophesy against Gog, and you shall say, thus saith the Master Yahuwah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and shall turn you around and lead you on, and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north, and bring you against the mountains of Yashrael, and shall smite the bow out of your left hand, and make the arrows fall from your right hand. On the mountains of Yashrael you shall fall, you and all your bands, and the peoples who are with you, to the birds of prey of every sort, and to the beasts of the field I shall give you for food. On the face of the field you shall fall, for I have spoken, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall send fire upon Magog, and on those who live undisturbed in the coastlands, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I shall make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people Yashrael, and not let my set-apart name be profaned any more. And the Gentiles shall know that I am Yahuwah, the set-apart one in Yashrael. See, it shall come, and it shall be done, declares Master Yahuwah. This is the day of which I have spoken. And those who inhabit the cities of Yashrael shall go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and armor, the bows and arrows, the clubs and spears. And they shall make fires with them for 7 years. And take no wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest. For with the weapons they make fire, and they shall plunder those who plundered them, and loot those who looted them, declares the Master Yahuwah. And it shall be on that day that I give Gog a burial site there in Yashrael, the valley of the passing by east of the sea, and stopping those passing by, because there they shall bury Gog and all his crowd, and shall call it the valley of Hammon Gog, or Hamon Gog. And the house of Yashrael shall bury them for 7 months, in order to cleanse the land. And all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be for a name to them on the day that I am esteemed, declares the Master Yahuwah. And they shall separate men who continually pass through the land, burying those who were passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. At the end of the 7 months they shall search, and those passing through shall pass through the land. And when anyone sees a man's bone, he shall set up a sign beside it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of the Hamon Gog, which obviously this is where all of them are supposed to be buried. And also a city named Hamona shall be there, so they shall cleanse the land. And you, son of man, thus said the Master Yahuwah, shall speak to every sort of bird and every beast of the field, assemble yourselves and come, gather from all around to my offering, which I am slaughtering for you, a great offering on the mountains of Yashrael, and you shall eat flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of the mighty, drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams and lambs, of goats and bulls, all of them fatlings of Bashan. You shall eat fat till you are filled, and drink blood till you are drunk, at my offering which I am slaughtering for you. And you shall be satisfied at my table with horses and riders, with mighty men, and with all the men of battle, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall set my esteem among the Gentiles, and all the Gentiles shall see my judgment which I have executed, and my hand which I have laid on them. And the house of Yashrael shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim from that day onward. And the Gentiles shall know that the house of Yashrael went into exile for their crookedness, because they have transgressed against me, so that I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their adversaries, and they all fell by the sword. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions I have dealt with them, and hidden my face from them. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, now I am going to bring back the captives of Jacob, and I shall have compassion on the house of Yashrael, and shall be jealous for my set-apart name. And they shall have borne their shame, and then all their trespass they have committed against me, when they dwell safely in their own land, with none to make them afraid. When I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of the lands of their enemies, and I shall be set apart in them before the eyes of many Gentiles, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim, who sent them into exile among the Gentiles, and then gathered them back into their own land, and left none of them behind. And no longer do I hide my face from them, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Yashrael, declares the Master Yahuwah. Amen. Okay, chapter 40. Here we go. In the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th of the month, in the 14th year after the city was smitten, on the same day the hand of Yahuwah came upon me, and he brought me there. In the visions of Elohim he brought me into the land of Yashrael, and set me on a very high mountain, and upward, and upon it toward the south was the structure of a city. The structure of a city. So he brought me there, and look, a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze, and a line of flax, and a measuring rod in his hand, and he stood in the gateway. I wonder who that was, right? We know who that was, the Messiah. And the man said to me, Son of man, see with your eyes, and hear with your ears, and set your heart on all that I am showing you, for you were brought here in order to show them to you. Declare to the house of Yashrael all that you are seeing. And look, a wall around the outside of the house, and in the man's hand a measuring rod 6 cubits long, each being a cubit and a handbreadth, and he measured the width of the wall structure 1 rod, and the height 1 rod. Then he came to the gate facing east, and he went up in its stairs, and measured the threshold of the gate 1 rod wide. It's hard to read because I'm not used to this, measuring stuff here. And the other threshold 1 rod wide, and the little room 1 rod long, and 1 rod wide, and between the little rooms a space of 5 cubits, and the threshold of the gate inward from the porch of the gate was 1 rod. Then he measured the porch of the inside gate 1 rod, and he measured the porch of the gate 8 cubits, and its post 2 cubits, and the porch of the gate was on the inside, and the little rooms of the east gate 3 on one side and 3 on the other, all 3 of the same size, and the posts were of the same size on this side and that side. And he measured the width of the entrance of the gate 10 cubits, and the length of the gate 13 cubits, and the border in the front of the little rooms 1 cubit on this side and 1 cubit on that side. And the gate room was 6 cubits on this side and 6 cubits on that side. And he measured the gate from the roof of one little room to the roof of the other. The width was 25 cubits door to door, and he measured the post 60 cubits high, even to the post of the courtyard all around the gate, and from the front of the entrance gate to the front of the porch of the inner gate was 50 cubits. And there were narrowed window frames in the little rooms and their posts at the inside of the gate all around, and for the porches too. and there were windows all around on the inside, and on each post were palm trees. And he brought me into the outer courtyard, and look, rooms and a pavement made all around the courtyard, 30 rooms on the pavement. And the pavement was by the sides of the gate, equal to the length of the gates, the lower pavement. And he measured the width from the front of the lower gate to the front of the inner courtyard. On the outside, 100 cubits towards the east and the north. Man, I don't know why I can't read that good. And the gate of the outer courtyard facing north, he measured its length and its width, and its little rooms, 3 on this side and 3 on that side. Its posts and its porches had the same measurements as the first gate. Its length was 50 cubits and its width 25 cubits. And its windows and its porches and its palm trees had the same measurements as the gate facing east. And they went up it by 7 steps, and its porch was in front of it. And the gate of the inner courtyard was opposite the northern gate and the eastern gate, and he measured from gate to gate 100 cubits. Now the south gate. And he took me toward the south, and look, a gate toward the south, and he measured its posts and porches according to these measurements, and windows were in it, and its porches all around like those windows, and its length was 50 cubits and its width 25 cubits, and 7 steps led up to it, and its porch was in front of them, and it had palm trees on its post. Imagine how beautiful this can you just picture this in your head a little bit? One on this side and one on that side. And the inner courtyard had a gate toward the south, and he measured from gate to gate toward the south 100 cubits. And he brought me to the inner courtyard through the south gate, and he measured the southern gate according to these measurements. And its little rooms and its posts and its porches were according to these measurements, and windows were in it, and its porches all around 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. And there were porches all around 25 cubits long and 5 cubits wide, and its porches were toward the outer courtyard, and palm trees were on its post, and 8 steps led up to it. 8 steps led up to it. And he brought me into the inner courtyard toward the east, and he measured the gate according to these measurements, and its little rooms and its posts and its porches were according to these measurements, and windows were in it, and its porches all around, 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. And its porches were toward the outer courtyard, and palm trees were on its post and on the side and on that side, and had 8 steps led up to it. And he brought me to the north gate, and he measured it according to these measurements, its little rooms, its posts, and its porches, and it had windows all around. Its length was 50 cubits, and its width 25 cubits. And its posts were toward the outer courtyard, and palm trees were on its post, on this side and on that side, and that 8 steps led up to it. And there was a room with its entrance by the post of the gate, where they washed the burnt offering. Now remember, this is talking about something prophetical, that's not happened yet. It said where they washed the burnt offering, and in the porch of the gate where there were 2 tables on this side and 2 tables on that side, on which to slaughter the burnt offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering. And on the outer side was one went up to the entrance of the north gate were 2 tables, and on the other side of the porch of the gate were 2 tables. 4 tables were on this side, 4 tables on that side. By the side of the gate, 8 tables on which they slaughtered. And there were 4 tables of hewn stone for the burnt offering, 1 cubit and a half long, 1 cubit and a half wide, and 1 cubit high. On these they placed the instruments with which they slaughtered the burnt offering and the offering. And the double hooks and a handbreadth wide were fastened all around, and the tables was the flesh of the offerings. And on the outside of the inner gate were the rooms for the singers in the inner courtyard, one at the side of the north gate and facing south, the other at the side of the south gate facing north. He said to me, this room facing south is for the priest who guard the duty of the house. And the room facing north is for the priests who guard the duty of the altar. They are the sons of Zadok, the Zadok priest. Okay? They are the sons of Zadok from the sons of Levi, who come near Yahuwah to serve him. So we're still talking about Levitical priesthood here. The sons of Zadok. And he measured the courtyard at 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide, a square, and the altar was in the front of the house. And he brought me to the porch of the house and measured the doorpost of the porch, 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on that side. And the width of the gate was 3 cubits on this side and 3 cubits on that side. The length of the porch was 20 cubits, and the width 11 cubits. And by the steps which led up to it, there were columns by the doorpost, one on this side and one on that side. Wow, that was a lot of details right there. Okay, 41. And he brought me into the temple, and he measured the doorpost 6 cubits wide on one side and 6 cubits wide on the other side, the width of the tent. And the entrance was 10 cubits wide, and the side walls of the entrance were 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on that side. And he measured its length 40 cubits and 20 cubits wide. And he went inside and measured the doorpost 2 cubits, and the entrance 6 cubits high, and the width of the entrance 7 cubits. And he measured the length 20 cubits and the width 20 cubits to the front of the temple. And he said to me, "This set apart place. On each 30 rooms on each level, they rested on ledges, which were for the side rooms all around to be supported, but not fastened to the wall of the house. And there was a broadening and a winding upwards for the side rooms, for the winding around the house went up like steps, and the width of the structure increased as one went up from the lowest level to the highest by the way of the middle one. And I saw the height all around the house, the foundation of the side rooms, a rod's length of 6 cubits. The thickness of the outer wall of the side rooms was 5 cubits, and that which was left between the side rooms of the house. And the rooms was a width of 20 cubits all around the house on every side. And the door of the side room was toward the open space, one door toward the north, one and another toward the south, and the width of the place of the open space was 5 cubits all around. And the building that was in front of the separate place at the side toward the west was 70 cubits wide, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around, and its length 90 cubits. Then he measured the house 100 cubits long, and the separate place with the building and its walls were 100 cubits long. And the width of the front of the house and of the separate place eastward was 100 cubits. And he measured the length of the building to the front of the separate place behind it, and its galleries on the one side and on the other side, 100 cubits, as well as the inner temple and the porches of the courtyard, the doorposts and the narrowed window frames and the galleries all around. There are 3 levels out opposite the threshold were paneled with wood from the ground to the windows, and the windows were covered from the space above the door even to the inner house, as well as outside, and on every wall all around, inside and outside by measure. And it was made with cherubim and palm trees, and a palm tree between cherub and cherub. A cherub had 2 faces, so that the face of man was toward the palm tree on one side, and the face of a young lion toward a palm tree on the other side, made on all the house all around. Kind of like the living creatures that we talked about earlier. Kind of weird. Kind of cool, I mean. From the floor to the space above the door and on the wall of the temple, cherubim and palm trees were carved. The doorposts of the temple were square, and the front of the set apart place, the appearance of one was alike the appearance of the other. The altar was of wood, 3 cubits high, and its length 2 cubits, and its corners and its length and its sides were of wood. And he said to me, "This is the table that is before Yahuwah." And the temple and the set apart place had 2 doors, and each of the doors had 2 panels, 2 folding panels, 2 panels for one door and 2 panels for the other door. And the cherubim and palm trees were carved on the doors of the temple, like those carved on the walls, and thick wood was on front of the porch outside. Can you just imagine this temple? I mean, it's just incredible. And narrowed window frames and palm trees were on the side and on the sides of the porch and on the side rooms of the house, and thick wood. Okay, let's get through this. 42. Okay, 42. And he brought me into the outer courtyard, the way toward the north, and he brought me into the room which was opposite the separate place, and which was opposite the building to the north. Along the length, which was 100 cubits, was the north door. The width was 50 cubits. Opposite the inner courtyard of 20 cubits, and opposite the pavement of the outer courtyard, a gallery against gallery in 3 levels. And before the rooms toward the inside was a walk 10 cubits wide, and a way of 1 cubit, and their doors were to the north. And the upper rooms were shorter because the galleries took away space from them more than the lower and middle levels of the building. For they were in the 3 levels and had no columns like the columns of the courtyards, so the upper level was set back more than the lower and middle levels from the ground up. As for the outer wall by the side of the rooms, toward the outer courtyard facing the rooms, its length was 50 cubits, for the length of the rooms toward the outer courtyard was 50 cubits, and that facing the temple was 100 cubits. And below these rooms was the entrance on the east side, as one enters them from the outer courtyard, and the thickness of the wall of the courtyard toward the east, opposite the separate place and opposite the building, were rooms. And the way in the front of them was like the appearance of the rooms which were toward the north, as long as wide as the others, and all their exits and entrances were according to plan. And according to the doors of the rooms that were toward the south, there was a door in front of the way in front of the wall toward the east, as one enters them. And he said to me, the north rooms and the south rooms, which are opposite the separate place, and the set apart rooms where the priest who approach Yahuwah, eat the most set apart offerings. There they place the most set apart items in the grain offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering, for this is set apart. When the priests enter, they are not to go out of the set apart room into the outer courtyard, but leave their garments in which they attend there, for they are set apart, and shall put on other garments, and shall draw near to that which is for the people. And when he had ended measuring the inner house, he brought me out through the gate that faces east, and measured it all around. He measured on the east side with the measuring rod 500 rods by the measuring rod all around. He measured the north side 500 rods by the measuring rod all around. He measured the south side 500 rods by the measuring rod. And he turned round to the west side and measured 500 rods by the measuring rod. On the 4 sides he measured it. It had a wall all around, 500 cubits long and 500 wide, to separate the set apart places from the common. Wow. It's a lot of detail to fill. Man, to read, can't even see straight right now. Okay, 43. And he led me to the gate facing east, and see, the esteem of Elohim of Yasharel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone from his esteem. Wow. And it was like the appearance of the vision which I saw, like the vision which I saw when he came to destroy the city, and the visions were like the vision which I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell upon my face, like the first vision we read about in Ezekiel, about the creatures and the wheels and stuff. And the steam of Yahuwah came into the house by way of the gate facing east. So he said the steam of Yahuwah came into the house, and the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner courtyard, and see, the steam of Yahuwah filled the house. And I heard someone speaking to me from the house, while a man stood beside me. And he said to me, Son of man, this is the place of my throne, and the place of my soles of my feet, when I dwell in the midst of the children of Yasharel forever. And the house of Yasharel shall no longer defile my set apart name, they nor their sovereigns, by their whoring and by their corpses of their sovereigns on their high places, when they placed their threshold by my threshold, and their doorpost by my doorpost, with a wall between them and me, they defiled my set apart name by the abominations which they have done. So I consumed them in my displeasure. Now let them put their whoring in their corpses of their sovereigns far away from me, and I shall dwell in their midst forever. He says, if they put the sin away and their whorings and stuff, he'll dwell with us forever. Son of man, explain to the house of Yasharel. Explain the house to the house of Yasharel. We're talking about the temple here. And when they are ashamed of their crookedness, they shall measure the measurements. Talking about building it. And since they shall be ashamed of all that they did, make known to them the design of the house, of its structure, and its exits and entrances, its entire design and its laws, and all its forms and all its tarot. Write it down before their eyes, so that they observe it, its entire design and all its laws, and shall do them. This is the Torah of the house, which means it's the law of the house, the way it should go. Upon the mountaintop, all the boundary of it, all around, its most set apart. See, this is the Torah of the house, or the instructions of the house. And these are the measurements of the altar in cubits, the cubit being 1 cubit and a handbreadth, and the base 1 cubit high and 1 cubit wide, with a rim all around its edge and one span. And this is the upper part of the altar. And from the base on the ground to the lower ledge, 2 cubits in the width of the ledge, 1 cubit, and from the smaller ledge to the larger ledge, 4 cubits, and with the width of the ledge 1 cubit. And the altar hearth is 4 cubits high, and 4 horns extending upward from the hearth. And the altar hearth is 12 cubits long and 12 wide, square in its 4 corners. And the ledge is 14 long and 14 wide on its 4 sides, with a rim of half a cubit around it, and its base 1 cubit all around, and its steps face east. And he said to me, Son of man, thus said the Master Yahuwah, these are the laws for the altar on the day when it is made, for offering burnt offerings on it, and for sprinkling blood on it. And you shall give a young bull for a sin offering to the priest, the Levites, who are of the seed of Zadok, who approach unto me, declares the Master Yahuwah. And you shall take some of its blood and put it on the 4 horns of the altar, on the 4 corners of the ledge, and on the rim around it, and shall cleanse it and make atonement for it. And you shall take the bull of the sin offering, and shall burn it in the appointed place of the house and outside the set apart place. And on the 2nd day you bring a male goat, a perfect one, for a sin offering, and they shall cleanse the altar as they cleansed it with the bull. When you have ended cleansing it, bring a young bull, a perfect one, and a ram from the flock, a perfect one, and you shall bring them before Yahuwah, and the priest shall throw salt on them and offer them up as a burnt offering to Yahuwah. Prepare a goat for a sin offering daily for 7 days, and prepare a young bull and a ram from the flock, perfect ones. For 7 days they shall make atonement for the altar, and cleanse it, and ordain it. And when these days are completed, it shall be on the 8th day and thereafter that the priests make your burnt offerings and your peace offerings on the altar, and I shall accept you, declares the Master Yahuwah. Amen. And he brought me back to the outer gate of the set-apart place, which faces east, and it was shut. And Yahuwah said to me, This gate is shut, it is not open, and no one enters it, because Yahuwah Elohim of Yashar has entered by it, and it shall be shut. The prince as prince, he sits into eat bread before Yahuwah, coming in by way of the porch of the gate, and going out of the same way. And he brought me by way of the north gate to the front of the house, and I looked and saw the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house of Yahuwah, and I fell on my face. And Yahuwah said to me, Son of man, set your heart and see with your eyes, and hear with your ears all that I say to you concerning all the laws of the house of Yahuwah, and all its Torah, or like Torah instructions. And you shall set your heart to the entrance of the house, with all the exits of the set apart place, and shall say to the rebellious, to the house of Yashrael, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, O house of Yashrael, enough of all these abominations of yours, that you brought in sons of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, uncircumcised in heart and in flesh, to be in my set apart place, to profane it, my house, that you brought near my food, the fat and the blood, and you broke my covenant because of all your abominations. And you did not guard the charge of that which is set apart to me, but you have set others to guard the charge of my set apart place for you. We read about this in 1 Kings and 2 Kings. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, so no son of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart or uncircumcised in flesh, comes in my set apart place, even any son of a foreigner who is among the children of Yashrael. And the Levites who went far from me when Yashrael went astray, who strayed away from me, and after their idols, they shall bear their crookedness. And they were attendants in my set apart place, as gatekeepers of the house, and attendants of the house, slaughtering the burnt offering and the offering for the people, and standing before them to attend them, because they attended to them before their idols, and become a stumbling block of crookedness to the house of Yashrael. Therefore I have lifted my hand in an oath against them, declares the Master Yahuwah, that they shall bear their crookedness, and not come near me to serve as my priest, nor come near any of that which is set apart to me, nor into the most set apart place, and they shall bear their shame and their abominations which they have done. Yet I shall make them those who guard the duty of the house for all its work, and for all that it has to be done in it. And we see rules for Levitical priests, it says. But the priest, the Levites, the son of Zadok, who guarded the duty of my set apart place when the children of Yashua went astray from me, they shall draw near to me and serve me, and shall stand before me to bring me the fat and the blood, declares the Master Yahuwah. Because these guys never went astray. That's why they're still the priest, the sons of Zadok. They shall enter my set apart place, and they shall draw near to my table and serve me, and they shall guard my charge. And it shall be when they enter the gates of the inner courtyard, that they put on linen garments, and no wool shall come upon them while they attend within the gates of the inner courtyard or within the house. They shall have linen turbans on their heads and linen trousers on their bodies. They shall not gird themselves with sweat. And when they go out to the outer courtyard, to the people, they shall take off their garments in which they have attended, and shall leave them in the set apart rooms, and shall put on other garments, and they shall set apart the people in their set apart garments. And their heads shall not shave, their heads they shall not shave, nor shall they let their hair grow long. They shall keep their hair well trimmed. And no priest is to drink wine when he comes into the inner court. And they do not take as wife a widow or a divorced woman, but take maidens of the seed of the house of Yashua, or widows of priests. And they are to teach my people the difference between the set apart and the profane, and make them know what is unclean and clean. And they are to stand as judges in a dispute, and judge it according to my right rulings, and they are to guard my Torah and my laws, and all my appointed festivals, and set apart my Sabbaths. And they are not to defile themselves by coming near a dead man, only for a father or mother, for a son or daughter, for a brother or unmarried sister they defile themselves. And after his cleansing, they count 7 days for him, and on that day he comes into the inner court of the set apart place to attend in the set apart place. He brings his sin offering, declares the Master Yahuwah. And it shall be to them for an inheritance. I am their inheritance, and you give them no possession in Yashua. I am their possession. You give them no possession in Yashua. I am their possession. That's how we got tithing, The grain offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering, they are not to eat, and all that is dedicated in Yashua is theirs. And the first of all the first fruits, see, the first fruits of all, and every contribution of all your contributions belong to the priest. See, the first fruits. That's why we tithe our first fruits. And the first of your ground meal you give to the priest, so that a blessing rests on your house. The priests are not to eat any bird or beast found dead or torn into pieces. I'm going to get this done, guys. We're going to finish this one today. We only got a couple more chapters. Bear with me. We're going to get this done. 45. And when you divide the land by lot into inheritance, offer a contribution to Yahuwah, a set-apart portion of the land, in length 25,000 cubits long, and in width 10,000, this being set apart throughout its border all around. Of this, a square plot is to be for the set-apart place, 500 by 500, with 50 cubits around, and for an open space. And from this measure you are to measure 25,000 cubits long and 10,000 wide, and in it is to be the set-apart place, the most set-apart place. This is to be set-apart portion of the land belonging to the priest, the attendants of the set-apart place, who draw near to serve Yahuwah, and it shall be a place for their houses and set-apart ground for the set-apart place. And 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width for the Levites, the attendants of the house, for them for a possession 20 rooms, and give the city as possession 5,000 cubits wide and 25,000 long. Beside the contribution of the set-apart portion, it belongs all to the house of Yashua. And the prince is to have a portion on one side, and the other of the set apart contribution and of the possession of the city, and bordering on the set apart contribution and the possession of the city on the west side westward, and on the east side eastward, and the length alongside one of the portions from the west border to the east border of the land. This is his possession in Yasharel, and my princes shall no longer oppress my people, and they shall give the land to the house of Yasharel according to their tribes. Tribes. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, enough, you princes of Yasharel, put away violence and plundering, and do right ruling and righteousness, and stop your evictions of my people, declares the Master Yahuwah. Have right scales and a right ephah, and a right bath. Let the ephah and the bath be of the same measure, so that the bath contains 1/10 of a homer, and the ephah 1/10 of a homer. Let their measure be according to the homer. And the shekel is 20 gerahs. Your mina is 20 shekels, 25 shekels, 15 shekels. This is the contribution which you present. You shall give 1/6 of an ephah for a homer of wheat, 1/6 of an ephah for a homer of barley. And the law concerning oil, the bath of oil, is 1/10 of a bath from a core. A core is a homer of 10 baths, or 10 baths or a homer. And one lamb from a flock, from 200 from the watered pastures of Yasharel for grain offerings and for a burnt offering and for peace offerings to make atonement for them, declares the Master Yahuwah. All the people of the land are to give this contribution to the prince in Yasharel, and on the prince are the burnt offerings and the burnt offerings and the grain offerings and the drink offerings and the festivals, the new moons, which are the head of the months, the Sabbaths, and all the appointed times of the house of Yasharel. He is to prepare the sin offering and the grain offering and the burnt offering and the peace offerings to make atonement for the house of Yasharel. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, in the first month, on the first of the month, you are to take a young bull, a perfect one, and shall cleanse the set apart place. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering and put it on the doorpost of the house, on the four corners of the ledge of the altar, and on the post of the gate of the inner courtyard. And do the same thing on the 7th of the month for anyone who makes a mistake or is foolish, and you shall make atonement for the house. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you have a Passover, which we already learned about this in obviously during the Torah. We read that. Leviticus and, Exodus and Numbers and Deuteronomy. Sorry, I was trying to catch your breath. Now, you have on the 14th day of the first month, you have a Passover, a festival of 7 days. Unleavened bread is eaten, or we call it Passover unleavened bread. And then, if you miss that, guys, you can make up for it the second month on the 14th day. If you was gone, and you couldn't keep it. And on that day, the prince shall prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bull for a sin offering. And during the 7 days of the festival, he prepares a burnt offering to Yahuwah, 7 bulls and 7 rams, perfect ones, daily for 7 days, and a male goat daily for a sin offering. And he prepares a grain offering of 1 ephah for each bull and 1 ephah for each ram, together with a hin of oil for each ephah. In the 7th month, on the 15th day of the month, at the festival, he prepares like these 7 days as the sin offering, as the burnt offering, and as the grain offering, and as the oil. 46. We're almost done. A couple more. It's a lot. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, the gate of the inner courtyard facing east is shut the 6 days of the work, but on the Sabbath it is open, and on the day of the new moon it is open. And the prince shall enter by the way of the porch of the gate from the outside, and he shall stand by the post, and the priest shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings, and he shall bow himself at the threshold of the gate, and shall go out, but the gate is not shut until evening. And the people of the land shall also bow themselves at the entrance to this gate before Yahuwah on the Sabbaths and on the new moons. And the burnt offering which the prince brings to Yahuwah on the Sabbath is 6 lambs, perfect ones, and a ram, a perfect one. And the grain offering is an ephah for a ram, and the grain offerings for the lambs, a gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And on the day of the new moon, a young bull, a perfect one, 6 lambs, a ram, they should be perfect. And he prepares a grain offering, an ephah for a bull, an ephah for a ram. So much on this one. If you didn't hear it in the beginning, we read Leviticus, and these laws for cleansing and for atonement and for sin, and for offerings, grain offerings and oil and stuff like that, burnt offerings and cleansing. I'll let you guys read this because it's we just read so much about the temple, and it's just stuff that we've already read before. So I'll let you guys do that on your own time because we've already read this stuff. I will read this though. 47. And he turned me back to the door of the house, and look, water was flowing from under the threshold of the house toward the east, and the house faced east, and the water was flowing from under the right side of the house, from the south of the altar. And he led me out of the way, by the way of the north gate, and took me around on the outside to the outer gate, facing east, and look, water trickling out on the right side. As the man went out to the east with the line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he made me pass over into water to the ankles. And he measured 1,000 and made me pass over into the water to the knees, and he measured 1,000 and made me pass over water to the loins. And he measured 1,000, a stream that I was unable to pass over, for the water had risen, water to swim, a stream that is not passed over. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? And he led me and brought me back to the bank of the stream. When I returned, then look, along the bank of the stream were very many trees on one side and the other. And he said to me, These waters are flowing toward the eastern country and go down into the Arabah and enter the sea, being made to flow into the sea, and the waters shall be healed. And it shall be that every swarming creature, wherever the stream goes, shall live, and there shall be very many fish, for these waters shall go there, and they are healed, and wherever the stream flows, all shall live. And it shall be the fishermen stand along it from En Gedi to En Eglaim, being places for spreading their nets, their fish to be of the same kind as the fish of the great sea, very many. Its swamps and marshes shall not be healed, they shall be given over to salt. And by the bank of the stream on both sides grow all kinds of trees used for food, whose leaves do not wither, and fruit do not fail. They bear fruit every month, because their waters flow from the set apart place, and their fruit shall be for food, and their leaves for healing. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, this is the border by which you inherit the land, according to the 12 tribes of Yasharel, 2 portions for Joseph. And you shall inherit it, each one the same as his brother, for I lifted my hand in an oath to give it to your fathers, and this land shall fall to you as your inheritance. And this is the border of the land of the north, from the great sea, the way of Hethlon, as one goes to Sadad, Hamath, Baratha, Sebarim, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, Hatzar Hati Kon, which is in the border of Haran. And the border shall be from the sea to the Hatzar Enon, to the border of Damascus, and on the north toward the north, toward the north is the border of Hamath. This is on the north side, and on the east side is between Haran, Damascus, and Gilead, and on the land of Yasharel, the Jordan River, from the border to the eastern side of the sea, you are to measure. This is the east side. Now he's giving, he's showing the people their land again, their inheritance. And you shall divide this land among your, because these I can't read these names too good. But and the west side is the great sea from the border to the point opposite of Hamath. This is the west side. You shall divide this land among yourselves according to the tribes of Yasharel. And it shall be that you divide it by lot as inheritance for yourselves, and as for strangers who sojourn in your midst, and who bear children among you. And they shall be to you as a native born among the children of Yasharel. With you they have an inheritance in the midst of the tribes of Yasharel. And it shall be that and when whatever tribe the stranger sojourns, there you give him his inheritance, declares the Master Yahuwah. I don't know why they put Romans 11 there, because that's not really talking about that. Okay. 48. Let's go. And these are the names of the tribes from the north end along the way to the Hethlon and the entrance of Hamath to Hatzar Enan to the border of Damascus northward by the side of Hamath from its east to its west side, Dan 1, and by the border of Dan from the east side to the west, Ashur 1, border of Ashur from the east side to the west, Naphtali 1, the border of Naphtali to the east side to the west, Manasseh 1, from the border of Manasseh from the east side to the west, Ephraim 1, Ephraim to the east to the west, Reuben from the east to the west, Judah from the east to the west is the contribution which you offer up 25,000 cubits in width and in the length of the same as the one of the portions from the east side to the west with the set apart place in its midst. The contribution that you offer up to Yahuwah is 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. And of these is the set apart contribution for the priest on the north 25,000 cubits, and on the west 10,000 in width, and on the east 10,000 in width, and on the south 25,000 in length, and in the set apart place of Yahuwah shall be in its midst. For the priests of the sons of Zadok, who are set apart, who did guard my charge, who did not go astray when the children of Yasharel went astray, as the Levites went astray. So this contribution shall be to them from the contribution of the land as a most set apart place by the borders of the Levites. And alongside the border of the priests, the Levites have 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. Its entire length is 25,000 and its width is 10,000. And they do not sell any of it, nor exchange it, nor transfer this best part of the land, for it is set apart to Yahuwah. And the 5,000 cubits in width that is left, facing the 25,000, is for common use by the city, for dwellings and open land. And the city shall be in its midst. And these are the measurements: the north side for 4,500 cubits, and the south side 4,500, and the east side 4,500, and the west side 4,500. And the open land of the city shall be to the north 250 cubits, and to the south 250, and to the east 250, and to the west 250. And the rest of the length alongside the contribution of the set apart portion is 10,000 cubits to the east and 10,000 to the west, and it shall be alongside the contribution of the set apart portion, and its increase shall be food for the workers of the city. And the workers of the city from all the tribes of Yasharel shall till it. The entire contribution is 25,000 cubits by 25,000 cubits for a square. You are to offer up the set apart contribution with a possession of the city. And the rest is for the prince on one side, and on the other of the set apart contribution and of the possession of the city, facing the 25,000 cubits of the set apart contribution as far as the eastern border, and westward facing the 25,000 as far as the western border, alongside the portions of the prince, and the set apart contribution and the set apart place of the house shall be in its midst. So the possession of the Levites and the possession of the city are in the midst of what belongs to the prince. Between the border of Judah and the border of Benjamin, it belongs to the prince. And as for the rest of the tribes, from the east to the west side, Benjamin 1, the border of Benjamin from the east side to the west, Shimon 1, Shimon from the east to the west, Issachar 1, Issachar from the east to the west, Zebulun 1, Zebulun from the east to the west, Gad, and from Gad 1, and by the border of Gad on the south side, toward the south, the border shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the Wadi to the great sea. This is the land which you divide by lot as inheritance among the tribes of Yasharel, and these are their portions, declares the Master Yahuwah. And these are the exits of the city, the gates of the city, according to the names of the tribes of Yashrael. On the north side, measuring 4,500 cubits. See Revelation here, how it corresponds with Revelation. The names of the gates of the cities and the 12 tribes. The 3 gates northward, 1 gate for Reuben, 1 gate for Judah, 1 gate for Levi. And on the east side, 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Joseph, 1 gate for Benjamin, 1 gate for Dan. And on the south side, measuring 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Shimon, 1 gate for Issachar, 1 gate for Zebulun. West side, and on the west side, 4,500 cubits with their 3 gates and 1 gate for Gad, 1 gate for Asher, 1 gate for Naphtali, all around 18,000 cubits. And the name of the city from that day is Yahuwah is there. Yahuwah is there. Or Shema. Shema. Yahuwah Shema. Right? Yahuwah is there. And that is the book of Ezekiel. Amen. Now we're in the book of Daniel, finally. Clap your hands. I know you're excited. Man, that was a lot of reading, guys. Oh, my neck is broke. Oh. Okay. And Corey didn't miss it either. Amen. So, Sister Rosie is with us tonight. Amen. You're already awake. Or you haven't been to sleep yet. One. Wow. Oh, yeah, the palm trees around it. Yeah, that's... Chris. I'm going to talk to you about something really important right now. Guys, I love you all. Shalom. I hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow we're going to be in the book of Daniel. Love you all. Have a good night.